Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 10 of college writing. The end is nigh. I hope everyone is doing all right. So before I get into this week's lecture, as you saw from the checklist, I'm a little behind on op-eds because life and pandemic gets in the way of us all. I've rearranged some due dates. Just check the checklist. I don't think it's going to cause anyone massive problems, blah, blah, blah. So everything is fine. You'll be fine. And please just know, unless you have just flat out not turned in work or I've talked to you personally, your grade is fine. So don't worry about that. Everything is good unless I really talk to you. If you are panicky still, just contact me, but you have no reason to be panicky. All right, so today's lecture is to help prepare you for the visual analysis essay. All right, you've just turned in your annotated bibliography. There is no required revision on that. I have had a lot of people do revisions on it because either you kind of do really well on it right away or you kind of crash and burn on it. So if you crash and burn on it, don't worry, you can always revise, no big deal. All right. So, but this is to get ready for the actual essay that you're writing. All right. So there are actually several ways to kind of write the visual analysis essay. I'm not really comfortable with giving you a exact, this is how it has to be, but I am going to tell you the basic, most common outline. All right. And that is this, you give me an introduction and you tell me the thesis that tells me the message your image is trying to convey. Now, this is kind of important because I want you to remember, unlike the op-ed, this is an academic paper attempting to objectively prove the opinion of something else. This paper is not about your opinion on the topic at all. Your opinion totally stays away from it. All you are doing is analyzing the image and saying, because of this analysis that I have done, this is the opinion of the image about the topic. All right? So the theme of the image, the purpose. The message will always be an opinion, blah, blah, blah. Now, then you move into research. Now, here's the trick, right? You want to research the entire topic. And what that really means is you want to research all of the sides, all right? Let's say excuse me, let's say you're doing fast fashion, all right? And you're doing something against fast fashion. So you need to tell me, objectively what fast fashion is, why people use it, why people don't use it, its benefits, its problems, all right? So in other words, this research part of your paper is giving me a very unbiased view of what your topic is from all sides. That way, when you get into the image analysis later, you're able to go, look, we can tell that the image is for this side and against this other side. So your research block, which again, 8 to 10 pages, you should be aiming for a 1-page intro, 1-page conclusion, and then 4 each on research and image analysis. All right. Of course, those are rough guidelines. Your research should be right. This is the topic. These are all the terms you need to know. This is what both sides believe. Blah blah blah. And you're giving me this in a very unbiased way, so that when you get to the image, you're like, because we have researched everything, we know that the image is for this and against this, right? The image analysis, this is where you're going to tear apart the different elements, every potential element you think is useful to you. You're going to tear it apart, explain it, and you're going to say, because of this explanation, we know that this image is for this side and against this side. All right, that is actually the biggest thing we're talking about in today's lecture. I'm going to give you things that you potentially could look at, all right, in terms of deciding what the opinion of the image is. All right, so essay must-haves. It's got to have a visual for you to analyze. It's got to have a clear opinion about a topic of importance. All right, if you can't decide what the opinion is, pick another image. You got to have a valid citation, background information on multiple sides of the topic. You got to have analysis of the rhetorical techniques of the image. That's what this lecture is about today. And then you have to explain how the rhetorical techniques in the image prove the opinion. All right. So how on earth do I do this? Well, right? One of the easiest things to do with this type of paper is an op-ed. It's not the only thing, but lots of people like to use op-eds because there's a really clear opinion, all right? So we've got a donkey and an elephant running to burn up a pollster, all right? This is showing that both political parties are very angry at the polling that has been done leading up to the 2020 election, all right? They want to burn the pollsters because, and both Republicans and Democrats agree with this, largely because a lot of them got polling wrong in the 2020 election. So, what are some things we can analyze? One, a lot of the things that we connect with traditionally with literature are at play here. You've got metaphor and metonymy by using the donkey and the elephant to represent Republicans and Democrats. You got the metaphor of the pollster being a witch, like someone who is magic. You've got the flames that are like, I want to destroy the pollsters. So there's a lot, excuse me, there's a lot to discuss here. And what you want to do is discuss every little bit in detail. So if you were doing an op-ed, you would have 4 pages of research on the 2020 election, why the Republicans hated the polling, why the Democrats hated the polling, why the polling was wrong, researched, right? Then you've got 4 pages on why does this image tell us, right, that basically both political parties were angry at pollsters. And then you're going to talk about the use of metonymy with elephants and donkeys being political parties, the flames, the metaphors, the witch, what it means to be a witch. You're going to tear every little element you can apart. Advertisements are very, very clear, persuadable things, all right? Have a break, have a Kit Kat. This is not just telling you to eat a Kit Kat, all right? This is telling you that eating a Kit Kat will bring you relaxation, will bring you a break, a breather, a rest, all right? And so your whole paper would be about first, all right? It would be a lot about chocolate, all right? Does chocolate actually have beneficial side effects? All right. What is a break? All right. Why do we need them? Why is rest important? Et cetera, et cetera. And then you get to the visual analysis, and you look at the color, the different ways that the color's red is used. You look at the words. All right. Remember, words are part of images, and so analyzing the language in the words super important. All right. How everything is built, how everything is designed, why this is catty corner, everything about why this is trying to convince you that eating chocolate and eating Kit Kat specifically will give you a rest in your life. All right. Photographs, all right, especially photojournalism. Photographs have really strong, all right, arguments. All right, we look at this, and at first it's really cool, but I think we can say that there are not enough safety precautions in in the kind of 1930s workforce during which this was taken. All right, and so we can break it apart. We can look at how dark and fuzzy the background is because they're so high up. It's almost cloudy. We can look at all of these guys, none of which have any safety harnesses at all. The building seems to have a safety harness, but none of these guys do. And they all look fine. They're all sitting there. They're laughing. They're looking at newspapers. They're eating. All right. So there's a lot to break down here. All right. Now, remember, the trick is to get 4 pages of visual analysis. All right. You have to talk it's like a paragraph per element, practically. All right. So in other words, how does being in black and white persuade this? How does this guy's face persuade us of something? How does the fact that the background is cloudy and blurry persuade us? How does this line across persuade us? That's how you're going to get 4 pages of image analysis. You're going to break apart every element and say, look, when I break apart all of these elements, every single element is connecting back to my thesis that this is about workers' rights and things like that. Right? By no means should you be should you only choose images that have a clear political message, hating polling, or safety workers, safety rights. All right. This is Starry Nights of Vincent van Gogh, one of the most popular works of art in existence. All right, and Vincent van Gogh painted, right, the kind of beauty of his depressed and manic mind. All right. And so you can easily have an opinion here about this image shows, right, the kind of invisible beauty of madness. And then you could write all about like what it means to be crazy, what it means to be clinically insane, what it means to be depressed. And then after we learn all about those various topics, you can then write 4 pages on, all right, so look at the swirls, look at the color, look at this weird thing right here, look at the city in the background. There are all of these elements that you can take apart, right? So now, so the rest of this lecture is all about elements of art. Now, if you've taken like an art history class or an introduction to art, you are going to be ahead of the process. Like most things I try and do in this class, this like mini lecture that I'm giving you on the elements of art could be an entire class worth of information. All right, but I'm just giving you a little touch, a little taste to show you the kinds of things that you can analyze in your own visual. All right, so elements of art. Shape. All right. Shape pertains to the use of areas in three-dimensional space that can be defined by edges, right? So edges. So look at the shape here, right? This is called Beasts of the Sea by Henry Matisse. And look at all of the kind of abstract shapes that he puts together, all right? Some of which semi-connected with sea life. You've got like an eel here, you've got a fish here, you've got some coral here. Some of them just abstractly representing the movement of water, all right, or motion, all right? So the shape, all right, is one thing that you can talk about in your image, all right? Value. Value is a use of light and darkness in a piece of art. Right? This is the Incredulity of St. Thomas by Caravaggio. I mean, it's Easter today when I'm recording this, so that's a happy coincidence. But Caravaggio is considered like the art world's master in terms of value. All right? Look at this. Look at how bright this depiction of Jesus is, right? Versus how dark the disciples are, right? And this is symbolic, right? This is representing that, Jesus is supposed to be like, the light of the world, and the disciples are kind of, struggling in darkness, right? This is the power of value, how bright or dark something is. And again, by looking at different elements, and it doesn't even have to be the image as a whole. You can look at how dark this one little area is. Look at how bright this other little, this person is in the painting. Decisions on brightness and darkness, all right, they have an emotional effect, and that's what we're looking for. What is the art doing to us emotionally that convince us of some opinion? Right? Line, another element of art. It's a use of various marks, outlines, and applied lines. A line has width, direction, and length. All right, so this is Jarmala by Frank Stella, a very famous kind of 3D sculpture. And look at all of the different ways that he is utilizing lines. All right, you've got this big line here. You've got the small lines of green inside it. You've got orderly lines. You've got chaotic lines. You've got lines that are actually the canvas. All right, you've got lines that are made out of the paint. There are lines upon lines upon lines here. All right, and so I can look at this, and this is one of the great things, especially about analyzing images. All right, you do not have to prove that your element means what you say it means. Let me rephrase that. You do not need secondary evidence to prove that what you say about the line means what you say it means, right? So in other words, if I were to say, all right, that to me, all right, this is a very kind of shocking, horrific image, because to me, when the lines get put together, it looks like a skull and there's a snake, this green line here, weaving its way in and out of the skull of this artwork, all right? Now, we can't talk to Frank Stella. We don't know if that's supposed to be a snake or not. But that doesn't matter, because all I need to do is explain my own internal logic here. Right? So when I explain that this to me looks like a snake weaving around the holes in a skull, as long as you can see that and say, oh, okay, I can see that. I don't know if I agree, but I can see where you're going. it works. Color. These are the three big ones. Of course, color can be broken down into three parts: hue, intensity, and value. We've already talked about what value is. Hue is just the color, red, yellow, blah, blah, blah. And then intensity is the vividness of the color. Is it dull? Is it bright? Is it pastel? There's so many things we can do with intensity, all right? One of the masters of intensity in European art was Manet. He did these two paintings. This is Rouen Cathedral West Facade and Rouen Cathedral West Facade Sunlight. And as you can see, he's painting the exact same place, all right, in the exact same style, but he is using color to show really distinct detail differences to what the cathedral looks like at sunlight versus what it looks like, in just kind of twilight or, just normal noontime. All right. So color is another. Now, remember, color has psychology, right? Green can mean greedy. Green can mean envious. Blue can mean calm. Blue can also mean depressed. Red is typically associated with lust and energy. Yellow is typically connected with like the sun and brightness and newness. All right. So colors have psychologies. So when you're looking at the colors, that's a great thing to do in your analysis. You look at, here's why the red is used. Here's why the green is used. Here's why this weird, ugly black thing is used. All of that. All right. There. Space. Space is the area that artists provide for a particular purpose. It includes the background, the foreground, and the middle ground, and refers to the distance or areas around, between, and within things. All right. This is one of the famous works of art because this is one of the first. This is by Raphael. It's one of the first works of kind of classical art that used a vanishing point system. All right. The vanishing point is a way to kind of create the illusion of 3D by making things, big in the foreground, medium in the midground, and then small in the background to give it the illusion of 3 dimensions. All right. And you can actually see these tiles here are actually pointed, way back here in the background. They would all meet. All right. All right. That's called the vanishing point. All right. So you've got this foreground stuff going on here with all these philosopher people in the foreground. You've got this background here. All right. The midground here. And then you've got the clouds in the background, making it all look very 3-dimensional. So when you talk about things like background, foreground, middle ground, what's in the foreground is usually important. What's in the background is usually kind of either unimportant or mysterious. So there are lots of things that you can say about the space in art, in images. Texture refers to the way that we describe either how 3-dimensional works actually feel, or when we're looking at 2-dimensional works, how they look like they feel. All right. So this is Chuck Close. Chuck Close specializes in pencil, these hyper-realistic pencil drawings of people. And look, you can feel the texture of her dress, the wrinkles on her skin, the kind of what would you call that? The sparseness of her hair. Just vividly, you can see the texture here. All right. So that's another thing you can analyze. All right. Real quick, I hope that this all kind of helps you. There are 3 basic styles of images, of art, that you might need to know to kind of help you better interpret the image. Right? Art started out with the goal of realism. Right? Basically, art wanted to depict life as real as possible. Right? You got the Monet by Da Vinci, and we're trying to make her look as real as possible. Right? Then, right? Especially once photography comes along, artists are like, well, I can never paint as realistic as a photograph. So what the hell am I going to do? Well, they turn to Impressionism, right? Impressionism is still depicting scenes, just like realism, but Impressionism is about giving you an emotional idea around that scene, all right? So in other words, and that's why it's called Impressionism, it's trying to give you the impression of something. This is Soleil Levant by Monet, and when you look at it, it's not supposed to just look like, the harbor at sunrise. It's supposed to give you what it feels like to sit on the banks of the river and watch as the sun rises over these ships that are starting their day, all right? And then at the other end of the extreme, we have expressionism. Expressionism is not intended to like depict a form out in the world. It is intended to just give a shocking explosion of emotion, right? In other words, it's trying to paint what an emotion might look like if emotions look like anything, right? This is called On White 2 by Wassily Kandinsky, and it is just an explosion of kind of orderly chaos. The shapes are very controlled, very orderly, but the kind of, but all of the shapes when put together create this really kind of chaotic mess, all right? So this is kind of looking at this is kind of what it feels like to look at chaos. All right. So realism, right? Making things realistic, giving things the impression of something. All right. And then full out just what emotions look like. All right. So I hope this helps you. I much prefer to do this kind of thing live because we can actually talk about like what's going on. But unfortunately, we can't do that right now, but hopefully soon. As always, I'm traveling this week, so I will still be available for email, text, and office hours. Just know that, if you get me while I'm driving in a car or something, forgive the background noise, but also know that I'll be really interested in talking with someone because I'm driving for 17 hours. So I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.